All right, class, let's take a look at our next topic is the Cold War. Our essential question, how did the U.S. and USSR affect the rest of the world? So after World War II ended, and even before that time, there were some conferences, Tehran, Yalta, and Potsdam conferences. Stalin first pledged free elections in Eastern Europe. After the war, Stalin controls all of Eastern Europe, and there were no free elections. The Soviets controlled this area once they fought the Nazis back, and they had overrun areas in Eastern Europe. They remained there. Soviets were upset that the U.S. and Britain did not include them in post-World War II plans, and some various other reasons. The Soviets were not very happy with the United States, especially the United States. The board just fell down. The U.S. wanted a democratic government in Eastern Europe and halt communism. Churchill made a speech in which he proclaimed the Iron Curtain, which details the demarcation between East and West. The partition of Germany after World War II. Germany was split into 4 different zones or sections: U.S., France, Great Britain, and USSR. They divided it up so they could rebuild the country, and then also to ensure that there weren't any old Nazis or a danger to restart another war. In 1949, Western Germany was once again allowed to self-rule. Eastern Germany was established in 1949, called the Democratic Republic of Germany, and it was essentially a communist country controlled by Russia, or the USSR. So you can see here is kind of a mock map. France had a small area in the rural valley, Great Britain, northern part of the United States, southern part, and USSR, the eastern part. Now, containment was a huge issue of communism during this time. 1947, the U.S. pledged to prevent further spread of communism. The Truman Doctrine of 1947, very important. U.S. policy to stop USSR. The United States gave monies to Greece and Turkey to stop communism from spreading in there, and we're still providing Turkey and Greece with money to this day, but in particular Turkey. And we're talking about millions and millions of dollars. Now the Marshall Plan, 1949 to 51, $13 billion sent to Europe to rebuild. The USSR did not allow any of that money into the eastern part, on the eastern side of that Iron Curtain. Now the Berlin crisis, in addition to all of Germany being divided up into 4 different sections, Berlin itself, the city, was cut like a pie into 4 different sections. The 4 sections were controlled by, once again, United States, France, Great Britain, and the USSR. So these sections, the westernized sections, were more westernized, and USSR was not. There were many, many people fleeing that section, and so the USSR cut them off, and people in those 3 sections were starving, dying. They needed medical attention. So there were massive airlifts to help the people in the western part of Berlin. Remember, Berlin was actually located in East Germany, so it was very difficult for people to assist them. Now NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, was formed. 12 countries in the beginning in Western Europe and North America to defend against communism. USSR forms its own pact, or a union, was called the Warsaw Pact. China becomes a communist country in 1949 by Mao Zedong. They had been enduring a civil war, and this was a huge blow against the Truman Doctrine and the spread of communism, because China is the most populated country in the world. In 1949, USSR tests the first atomic bomb, and they start to move towards the atomic age. Now, the Korean War was the first test to the United Nations. The Korean Peninsula was divided at 38th parallel after World War II. North Korea, with the help of USSR, invaded the South and wanted to control the entire Korean Peninsula. United Nations forces pushed them back, actually pushed them so far north they were almost in China, and at that point the Chinese got involved and started to send troops to aid the North Koreans. This led to a ceasefire after 3 years of fighting at the 38th parallel, which is where they started. Thousands of people had to die. The tensions are still high in North Korea to this day. Now, the hydrogen bomb was created. The hydrogen bomb, much more destructive. First in the United States in '52 and USSR in '53, and it really got the nuclear age going and the idea of two superpowers. Now, the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc, Stalin would rule until 1953. He was very oppressive. From 46 to 53, 12 million people were killed in the USSR, in gulags, forced labor camps, or just outright killed. Communist countries in Eastern Europe, Poland, Hungary, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria are some of them. Now, there were some uprisings, and when things like that took place, the Soviet army was used to keep these countries in line or in check. After Stalin died, Nikita Khrushchev came to power in '53 after Stalin's death. He sought to de-Stalinize the country, reforms. He encouraged, or people tried to encourage more liberties, more freedoms, and national independence away from USSR. Now, the Hungarian uprising, students and workers protest against communism in Hungary in 1956, and we're talking about a huge nationwide protest to try to get the communists out of Hungary. The USSR sends in tanks and kills hundreds to put down the protest. So they didn't play around. They knew that they were going to keep Hungary as a communist country, and they were going to take any means to do so. The Cold War, high and lows. Khrushchev seeks a peaceful coexistence. Sputnik was launched in 1957, a satellite that got the space race going, orbited the Earth, not for very long, but got people in the United States and USSR going in the space race. A U-2 spy plane was shot down in the USSR in 1960, which just added fuel to the fire. And then the Berlin Wall was built in '61 to stop people fleeing from the West, fleeing to the West from the East. And we're talking about millions of people leaving communist country to try to escape to the West, which was more ideal for a lot of people at that time. All right, next tape we'll talk about the Cuban Missile Crisis. And remember, history is no mystery. Take good notes.